What advice do you give to young graduates who are experiencing anxiety that AI is taking away entry-level jobs?
I'd have a couple of pieces of advice. One, in any role in any field, be the most AI-enabled version of yourself you can possibly be. There's tons of anthropologists that have written about how we evolve with our tools, and you can just imagine a farming competition between a guy with a tractor and some drones and the other guy's got a plow and a donkey. Who's going to win? And you need to think about it that way. If there are 40 people in your org all doing the same thing and you understand how AI affects that role more than the rest of them, you're not getting laid off. Like, it's just not going to happen. And you'll also start to understand what parts of your job are a threat or not. And maybe you can elevate yourself to where you're a designer and not the worker bee because you now have this power.
All right, we're going to do 45 minutes of just the two of us, and then we're going to do your questions. The book's great.
Thank you.
I mean, you know how I knew it was great is that my just graduated from Runnin Academy son, who's taken a gap year and is in London working, asks me all the time the questions you answer. That the anxiety in the air around him about what he's going to do with his life and how do you even think about it? I think you've hit a nerve. I think you're going to find
very kind.
This thing is going to run. But we're not going to get the book right away. I'm going to do this in stages.
Okay.
And we're going to start. We've known each other. When did we meet? I can't even remember how we met. But we met a long time ago. Was it through Moneyball?
Maybe Maury. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was.
I think it was Maury.
Yeah. So a long time ago.
Yeah.
And my first impression of you was you were tall. And I think it probably shapes everything that happens to you. I think you can't go through the world 6'9" without having a kind of 6'9" life.
Yeah. For good or for bad.
Well, there is this thing with really tall people that you spend your life knowing people are watching you, and I think it makes you better behaved. I think you're not going to get away with anything. You really are. You're not going to sneak one by anybody. And so you have to have a better character when you get to be your size.
All right.
But so I want to start with your life a little bit because your life is what informs this book. I want you to walk us through your life up to the moment you get on stage at the University of Texas in 2018 and give the speech that leads to this book.
Yeah.
Tell me how you grew up.
I grew up in Dickinson, Texas, which is in between Houston and Galveston, in Galveston County. My father, and I think this is relevant to the overall story for a reason I can share. My father grew up in rural North Carolina, fell in love with gas airplanes as a kid. Like, his father built him a shed behind the house, and he's out there till 12.
Was he a real country boy?
No.
You said rural North Carolina. Rural North Carolina when you're
No, I know, but he's playing with those old Cox model airplanes. Right. And he goes to NC State and gets an aeronautical engineering degree. And he's working at Langley Air Force Base in a wind tunnel. And someone comes by and asks him and 49 other people working there, would you want to move to Houston and help start NASA?
Oh.
And he said yes.
Of course.
Well, is it of course? Like you grow up, some people grow up in a geographic area, and that can be daunting to jump that far. But the reason I think that story is relevant is when it came time for me to think about jumping across the country, it seemed natural, because I had seen this example.
So you eliminated that fear.
Yeah.
Fear of having to go somewhere else.
Or even knowing what it led to for him. I mean, to grow up on a farm playing with model airplanes, he was born in 36, so, 18 is, what is that, 54. Yeah. By 69, they put a man on the moon. Yeah. That's quite a run.
Yeah. And he was in the middle of it.
Yeah, half the fathers on the street I grew up on worked at NASA. So it was just around us. It didn't seem strange.
Did you want to go into that line of work?
No. And by the time I was graduating high school in '84, it moved on to the space shuttle, and even that was not. I wasn't drawn to that. But my sister. This could take forever. If
I'll cut you off. I have some specific things I want to do with you.
My sister was a double E at Rice and could have gone to a bigger company and went to Compaq Computer Corporation in Houston, which was a super hot startup at the time. John Doerr was on the board. It was being disruptive of IBM. And so she was an early employee there, which is another data point, that I have in my life. And I followed her there.
How did you figure out what you wanted to be?
So when I was like a sophomore in high school, I got a hold of a Commodore VIC-20, which was this precursor to the PC that you plugged into a TV.
Right.
And I would buy these magazines that had code written in them. And before I even knew how the code worked, I'd type them in and see it work. And of course, I'd make typos and it wouldn't work. And then I'd have to I learned to code that way through that, and got fascinated with that you could write a program that could do something. And by the way, like half the people my age in Silicon Valley have that same story.
Yeah, but if I had found you, if I had met you when you were in junior or senior in high school and asked you what you were going to do when you grew
Computer
up.
science, for sure.
That's what you were going to do.
Yeah, and I went to college, and that's what I got to do.
You were going to program computers?
Yeah.
That's not what you ended up doing.
No, but I worked at Compaq for a little over 2 years.
And so why do you leave that job?
A couple of things happened. One, I developed this mental exercise that I didn't realize I was doing, but at the time, I said to myself, a couple years in, we started a third project, looked like the second project, looked like the first project. And I was starting to pay attention to some broader things, and it looked a little redundant. And I said to myself, do I see myself here 30 years from now? And there were people in the building that had been engineers for 30 years, so I could get a perspective on it by just thinking, do I want to be them?
Right.
And the answer was no. Very quickly in my brain, the answer was also, I had read Peter Lynch's One Up on Wall Street, and I was starting to get fascinated with stocks, like when I got home at night.
Right.
I got this Value Line notebook they used to have with single pages. It was like 400 pages. You get updates in the mail.
Yeah.
So I started thinking about stocks a lot out of just interest.
So that moment, because I had a moment like this when I was working on Wall Street.
And I read,
and I wrote a book about it. But the moment when you look at the people who are in whatever you just started out in, and you don't really want to be that in 30 years. That's one thing. But the other thing you said is that it sounded like it was repetitive.
It was.
So you weren't learning.
Right.
So and learning is a big deal with you.
Yes.
You always love to learn.
Well, when I decided to leave Compaq, I went to business school at the University of Texas, and for some reason, I fell in love with reading there. I did read that Peter Lynch book, but prior to like high school and undergrad, I didn't read much. But in business school, like a bit flipped, and I just started reading everything. Yeah, including.
This is the male brain. Waking up at age 25,
Could
right?
be.
No, that's what happens. I think that is what happens.
Yes,
our brains are a little slow to come along. Mine was. I know. I had a similar sort of experience.
Yeah.
So, we skipped over one thing because I think the fact that you're 6'9" and played basketball at the University of Florida, even though you didn't play a lot.
Right. You're
on a D1 team. You were surrounded by NBA
I like
players.
to say I practiced basketball, but yes.
But you practiced basketball. 3 guys who played in the NBA.
Correct.
It was a pretty serious.
People have asked me how that, the only thing I could possibly say of how that might have impacted my career path is, one, I saw people get to very high places that I knew. So there's a certain oh, that's doable.
You mean the NBA?
Yeah. Okay. But I knew for me, it wasn't that lane. So if I wanted to do it, I'd have to find another lane.
Right.
But still, it's interesting to see that kind of level of success up close and know about it.
But I would say, we're going to get to your talk because the talk is the catalyst for this book.
Yeah.
But when you talk on a stage, you don't remind me of any VC I know. You remind me of a lot of basketball coaches I know.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, you're a coach. You were so. The way you talk, the way you're talking to them, you sound like you're talking to a team at a halftime that you're slightly irritated with. You're not gonna go crazy on them, but you're slightly irritated with them, and you're telling them how life works, and so you clearly picked up, and a lot of.
One of the founders I work with is in the audience.
Yeah, but a lot of your
he probably agrees with that.
You brought up. I can't remember whether you brought it up in the talk or the book, But it was in the talk. You were quite moved by Bobby Knight's speech introducing Mike Krzyzewski into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And I went and watched that. And he reminded me of you. He did. So you have this.
Okay.
Am I wrong that your athletic? No, let me just ask the question I want to ask. Your athletic career shaped you too. It wasn't just your dad was at NASA and you played with computers. You clearly were. You cared a lot about sports.
Yeah.
You don't go suffer at the end of the bench on the University of Florida unless you care about this.
Yeah.
So tell me about that part of your development.
I mean, like I said, the part that I think I might have taken away from it is just simply knowing that they're, like, how far away from the talent level, the people that went to the NBA from the rest of us.
Right.
Like, even in practice every day, you could just tell.
Right.
And knowing that if you were going to do something at that level, it would require you to have that same kind of advantage in whatever it is you go do. Like, it was a real awakening of differential of potential.
Nothing about hard work or teamwork or any of that stuff that comes.
I think all that stuff leaks in, like as you go through the whole process, and grinding and coaches yelling at you and like not being the end of the world.
Did your coaches mean a lot to you?
No, not really.
Okay, all right, that's interesting. That's I like to see you squirm a little bit.
I read your book, Coach. I did not.
You didn't have that experience.
I didn't have that experience.
Yeah, I got lucky.
Yeah,
I mean, not everybody has that experience.
Yes.
All right, so you leave Compaq, you go to business school.
Yep.
And get us from there to Silicon Valley.
Well, I went through Wall Street. So I thought about venture capital a little bit when I was at business school. I was curious about it. I couldn't find a way in. I had a few informational interviews. They said, go work for 20 years and call me back, which I thought was not really an executable plan. And then I started reading business magazines. I really loved my corporate strategy class, and a lot of MBA students sit in the big open area and pretend to be executives and read Fortune and Forbes and Wall Street Journal. And I was, of course, reading the tech articles because that's what I was excited about. And there was this team of sell-side analysts at Goldman Sachs: Dan Benton, John Leviton, Rick Sherlin, and they were considered the axe.
Right.
And the reporters, when they wanted to write about these industries, would always ask them. Yeah. So I'm reading this stuff, and they're like, keep coming up. Like, these are the people that analyze these important tech industries. So I did what you read about in books. I cold called them and said, can I come see you? And Dan and Rick said yes. I'm like a first-year student at the University of Texas, pretty far away from New York.
Yeah.
And then, because I knew they were so well known, I called the other research directors and said, I'm going to be in New York meeting with Rick Sherlin and Dan Bent. Can I get 15 minutes of your time? And I ended up with like 7 meetings with research directors, and one of them gave me a shot, Al Jackson, who was at the book party on Monday night, which was great to see him. And by the way, he cared a lot about the athletics piece.
I bet all the Wall Street people did.
Yeah, I was asking him why he took a chance on this kid from Texas, because the incoming group of people from MBA programs that year, there were 40 of us, and I was the only one that wasn't Columbia, Wharton, the ones you would expect.
Yeah, but one of the
Chicago.
things you signal if you've been through a D1 athletic program is you've learned how to suffer.
Yeah, and work, and have work
Yeah,
ethic.
that's right. Then you're going to have to suffer in those jobs. So your interest in Wall Street comes from reading Peter Lynch. This is what gets you.
A little bit in your book, which I know you hate.
You say this. I don't hate. So I got to it, and I thought it's funny. He said that he.
What year did it come out?
89.
Yeah, so I went to work on Wall Street in 91.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I should share with the audience Michael's book, Liar's Poker. He thought he was writing a book to tell people, don't ever come to this horrible place.
That's your take on my book.
I know that's my take on you describing.
No, not exactly. I didn't have that kind of view. My view was there was a little more nuance than that. It was that I was watching people who had not the benefit of this advice at Princeton, where I went, anxious about their careers, many of them had done all the right things to get to Princeton, and they were, what is the next right thing to do?
Yeah.
Like they wanted a treadmill, and Wall Street. I watched Wall Street become this treadmill, and I watched people who really had talents and interests that should have taken them in a different direction feel they couldn't afford to do it because you had to do this because it was too scary. Turning down Goldman Sachs would have been like turning down Princeton.
Yeah.
And that bothered me.
Yeah.
Really bothered me. And so what I was hoping it would do was sort of demystify it.
Yeah.
So that the kid who was going to be an oceanographer would just say, okay, I know what it is, silly.
Yeah.
I'm going to go be an oceanographer.
Yeah.
It is true that it did not have that. It had that effect with some kids. But with other kids, it was more, oh my God. The dog whistle coming out of Liar's Poker was, Michael Lewis doesn't know anything. He persuades us he doesn't know anything. And within 18 months, they're throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year at him to give financial advice. I don't know anything, says the reader. Where can I go to get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year? And so it attracted all these people into the business.
Yeah.
I don't want to digress on me too much, but I just flash forward.
So my main draw was the thing I'd mentioned, the tech analyst in this thing. But your book did create this notion of sensationalism.
Yeah.
That it would be exciting. Fun. Yes, exciting. And
well, was it?
Oh yeah, I had a blast. It was a rocket ship. I got very fortunate. I had this amazing call on Dell that worked out like perfectly.
It was going up or going down?
The company was in trouble. It was trading at 6 times earnings. Their laptop had caught on fire, and they had this option hedging strategy gone awry that they had to do a mea culpa to the street. So the street hated the stock, but we had done some analysis using this new tool called return on invested capital, and they had like a 10-to-1 advantage over Compaq and the other companies because of how they work their inventory and their positive cash flow cycle. And we went positive on it. They fixed those 2 problems. Stock went up 100x.
And you got credit for it?
Yeah, and I got credit for it. And I got to know Michael, which is awesome, and the CFO at the time, Tom Meredith.
So why do you leave that job if it was so great?
And one of the crazy things about that job is you visit companies, you go straight and talk to the CFO and the CEO. It's crazy. You're 28 years old and you get to go straight to the top, which the access is unbelievable.
Because they think you're going to say nice things about them.
And maybe, but still, you get in.
Right. Journalists have that too.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And podcasters now, I meet them and they're like, it's unbelievable. They just sit there interviewing people that they love.
Right.
So it's cool. Anyway, there was that great part. I had the same exact exercise one day. The company was in Park Avenue Plaza, 52nd and Park, and the research team had the 36th floor, and the corners were held by the senior most people. And I'm there at 10 p.m. one night, and I walk around the floor, and I pause. I don't even know why I did this in front of each of those 4 offices and said, is that going to be me? Do I want that to be me 30 years from now? And I got to know that night. I remember making that decision that night.
Did you ever get to a place in your life where you looked up and said, I want to be that in 30 years?
When I got in venture, I never had that discussion with myself ever again.
Okay.
No.
So didn't, at least the sight of the people.
Yeah, and I didn't, I kind of got prepared to tilt at venture and to leave. I didn't, in neither of these cases did I walk out the door the next day. I made a mental decision to find a way to go in a different direction.
And what interests you about venture capital?
I just answered this question the other day. So I love technology. I love disruption.
Right.
I really got into business strategy, and this idea that you could bet on a startup kind of outmaneuvering an incumbent and then being successful, and then you get to bet on it, because I started trading stocks. When I was in college, my friends and I would go to Binion's and play single deck blackjack. So I had this gambler kind of thing too.
You like to gamble?
Yes. And
technology
disruption.
Do you like to gamble when you're counting cards, or you like to gamble?
I prefer to have edge.
Okay.
When
you sit at the slot machines?
No, never.
Okay, you don't like that?
No. Okay. And I meet people that want to flip,
coins for,
Yeah, for a lot of money.
That doesn't interest you?
None. I have zero interest in that.
You like the idea of having an edge and then making
Yes. Right. All that.
Right.
And so it was perfect. It was like all those things combined.
And how did you know that? Like, how would you even have discovered when you come in?
Okay, so Compact was a startup that
Right.
was very successful. My sister got options.
Right.
I learned about that and started to have that idea. I get to Wall Street, and there are hot young companies that are growing really fast that are exciting to cover.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Would you cover IBM?" And I'm like, I had zero interest. So that told me I wanted to be more over here, even on the other side of that.
Right.
You know, in what was happening on the edge. The edge was very exciting to me. And so the ventures where it gets really on the edge. And then I'd already decided I want to move to the buy side. It was either going to be public or venture.
Right.
Because the sell side, you're
If you
you're
actually
talking,
know,
but
you want to do it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You don't really have any money on
those
the
who
line.
say don't know and those who know don't
Yeah,
say.
exactly.
Right? It's
Yeah.
So we should talk about your venture career, but I want to flash forward to your speech because
Okay.
we'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. You're kind of shy about talking about your career. I mean, you said when you went to go sell a book that everybody wanted you to write about Uber or
My career,
your
every
career.
single one of them.
Yeah. Or a memoir or something.
Yeah.
They didn't want a how-to book.
That's correct.
About how to lead your life.
Right.
Right. So that's interesting. But you get invited to go back to your alma mater.
Yeah.
And give a talk to a class. At
Yeah,
Texas
it was a new
Business School.
incoming MBA class. Yeah.
And you can talk about anything.
Yeah.
Why'd you decide to talk about this?
During my entire career, I was a writer, and I wrote more. I started as a sell-side analyst. You're forced to become a writer, but I found a way to use writing as a way to differentiate myself as a venture capitalist. It started as a sell-side analyst, but I kept doing it through blogs. I mean, it was started as a newsletter, but eventually became blog. And in that process, and I'm sure writers do this as well, a new idea pops in my head. I grab a new file, open it up, put the notes in, and as something new comes across that's related to that, I stick it in there and see how it builds. And for every blog post I did, there's 3 or 4 of those that never see the light of day.
Right.
I was reading a bunch of biographies at one time, and there was a third biography, and I saw this through line to the second and the first. And the same way I'd write about frameworks for a new technology or a new disruption or a marketplace companies and the internet, I had that same kind of aha moment that these pieces fit together in this way, that there was a framework.
The biographies fit together.
Yes.
And what was it?
And so I wrote.
What was the pattern? You saw a pattern.
I did.
And then what was the pattern?
Well, I thought it was, so the thing that was super interesting to me is there were 3 people all in fields that your parents would tell you not to go into. It was a folk singer, a restaurateur, and a basketball coach. They all started on the very bottom rung.
Yep.
They were all insanely curious about their field, so much so that they're out learning proactively on their own. Like not learning in a classroom where a teacher's teaching you. They're studious.
You're not doing it for an A.
They're studious,
Right.
and all 3 of them are just studious in a way that I've never seen other people do, And
Can we say who they are?
yeah. So I mean, they're all 3 profiled in
Yeah,
the book and the video. But Danny Meyer, a restaurateur in New York,
Yep.
took copious notes every time he visits any restaurant.
Before he even becomes a restaurateur.
Yes,
Right.
yes, yeah. Even as a hobby
Right.
when he's young. Bob Dylan, who most people don't know how studious he was
I have no idea.
on his way up,
Yeah.
and the movie missed it too. The new movie that came out.
Good movie.
But the Scorsese documentary
Yeah.
gets it,
Okay.
But and he's been a lifelong learner. He just came out with this book about 50 songs that mattered most. They're not his,
Right.
Right. So he's
Right.
like studying, and then Bobby Knight, who in his early way up, forced his way in front of like 6 of the best coaches in the history of the sport. Like I've never seen a mentor pursuit like that.
Right.
Ever. And the thing I really love about Bobby Knight, everybody knows the chair and the anger and all that.
right.
He has a coaching tree that is bigger than anyone that's ever coached.
You put it up on a slide in your talk.
Yeah. The number of people that either played for him or coached under him that have gone on to coach on their own.
So he himself was a teacher.
Yeah. And I think it's an interesting way to judge someone's impact on the world. But Danny has the same kind of thing. If you talk to a chef that ever worked at a Danny Meyer restaurant, it matters to him. And that's got to feel really cool if you're Danny, that people care, that they were just going through your program, that you got exposed to it a little bit.
So you're about to give this talk at the University of Texas.
Yeah.
You notice this pattern.
Yeah.
These three people who you admire and are interested in all had a kind of similar approach to how they found their career in careers that no parent would say.
Yeah, and the intentionality, like that part was really interesting to me. Like Danny didn't originally have that intentionality. He had this amazing moment with his uncle one night at dinner, his Uncle Richard, and then the next
Describe
day,
that moment. It's an interesting moment.
If I have one goal of this book, it's to be Uncle Richard for as many people as possible. So Danny was poli-sci at UConn at Trinity in Connecticut, and he worked as a salesperson, but always knew he was going to go to law school because he's poli-sci. This was just to save up some money to go to law school, and he's going to take the LSAT the next day, and he goes to dinner with his Uncle Richard, and I guess his Uncle Richard notices he's got a frown on his face. He said, "Why are you so down?" He said, "I have to take the LSAT tomorrow." His Uncle Richard said, Do you really have to? Like, do you have to take the LSAT tomorrow? And this led to a conversation where his Uncle Richard told him, Danny, all you ever do is think about restaurants. Why don't you just go open a restaurant? It had never dawned on him. His father had a couple of bankruptcies in the broad travel and leisure space, and so his father had kind of pushed him away from the idea. He needed Uncle Richard to give him permission to go think about this thing.
There are two things going on there. One is sort of freeing yourself from this sense of obligation. I have to go do this.
Yes.
I'm supposed to go do this. You see that. I mean, broadly, I'm supposed to go make a lot of money.
Yes.
And that's really the trap. You get stuck.
I think you can
shuts down your imagination.
I think you can get stuck just because the grind today for young adults is so hard that it feels like sunk cost.
Yeah.
Like you come out and
you've done all this too.
I've done all this work to get to this place. Like going somewhere new, I would be giving up all this work that I put.
Right. So ignoring sunk costs is one of the great lessons in life.
Yes.
Right.
No doubt.
Yeah. But the second thing is it's okay to go do the thing you want to do.
Yes.
Even if it sounds maybe not so promising.
Yes.
Because the intensity with which you want to do it will overwhelm everything.
And then the moment, like once Danny had that bit flipped, it changed everything.
Right.
And he became, he was already studious on this industry, but he became this massive learn-it-all. He enrolled in a $300 restaurant management course that he found in a magazine on a corner of the street in those boxes, in New York.
Yeah.
And there's another character in the book that also went to a cosmetology course offered by the city of Los Angeles that's free. And this bottom rung notion, is really interesting to me. Like you don't have to have networks or connections. You can, and he took a job that was paying like $15,000 a year just to learn. Like he knew it wasn't the income he needed, but he wanted the experience.
It's funny. It's the old guild model.
Yes.
The old you apprentice, the old apprenticeship.
Well, and then he went through Europe doing these. Stage is a fancy European word for work for free, which is the apprentice thing. And he went and did that all through Italy, all through France.
But it is the way to learn.
Yes.
Yeah, and there are a lot of places, a lot of careers that really don't offer it.
I agree.
You have to go almost insist upon the experience.
Yes.
And you're encouraging people to do this.
Yes.
But one of your lessons is be good at finding mentors.
Yes, but also note one great test of whether you're really tilting at your true obsession and fascination is that learning. I call it free. Like is that studying that Danny did? Like he was doing it before he ever became convinced it could be a career. But if you really love what you do, you go home at night, you're reading about how to be better at it,
Right.
you know.
You don't think of it as
You don't think of it as work,
chore.
and I would say you might even get positive energy from it.
Right.
Whereas studying something you don't love might sap energy
I
from.
want to talk about why so many people do things they don't want to do.
And by the way, Danny would do that the rest of his career. I mean, he would go on these tours. When he opened this Blue Smoke restaurant in New York as a barbecue place, he took his team all around America and sampled the top barbecue places all over. When he opened Shake Shack, which the very first one in Madison Square, he went to 10 different burger places around the U.S. and his team would debate what worked and what didn't. Like it's a very artisan approach to what he did and what he does. And he wrote a book called Setting the Table, where I gathered most of this information from. And I've gotten to know him because he was on the board of Open Table. But
Did you interview all the people who were in here?
not all of them, because Dylan's very hard to get to. I heard when Scorsese did the documentary, they had an intermediary.
So just to finish with the talk.
Yeah.
So you decide this is the subject of your talk.
Yeah.
And you decide you're going to try to distill some principles you can
Yes.
get across to them.
Yes.
What were the principles? Because you've expanded on them. What were
I added one.
so all those were there but one.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. Find your passion. We renamed it Chase Your Curiosity, and here people find the word passion very cliche-ish.
You quote Jerry Seinfeld saying,
Jerry Seinfeld gave a
forget your
speech
passion,
where he said,
figure out what you're fascinated.
fascination, and I think it's a better word, actually.
Yeah.
Like this, and then hone your craft, which is just immense continuous learning. And I don't, if you're not in the right lane, I don't think you can do the second one. And the second one's a good test of whether you're in the right lane. They reflect on each other really well.
Right.
And all these people did it. I mean, the Bobby Knight stuff where he's showing up, to these coaches with 100 play cards and asking them if they'll go through them one by one with them.
Right.
Like that's a crazy level of obsession.
What's the venture capital's version of hone your craft? What did you do to become a good venture capitalist?
I think for me, I had the advantage of starting on Wall Street. So I had read Buffett and Howard Marks and Graham and Dodd. And I think that gave me a different lens. I always said venture is creating products for the public markets to buy. So you kind of want to know what they want.
Right.
And I came at it from that. And then, John Doerr and Mike Moritz, like the contemporary leaders when I joined, like you study them. There's books about the people that came before them.
Right.
You study those. And then in venture, you have to study the edge of the technology and have insane FOMO about it.
Did you feel like you got better with age?
You get better at sitting in a boardroom, keeping your mouth shut, being better at those kind of soft human skills.
Right.
I think staying on the edge gets harder as you get older.
Okay.
I think I've always said venture bends towards youth because the new kids are doing new things,
Right.
And it's hard to keep up with all
and
of
your
it.
time is absorbed with old things.
Yeah. As a venture capitalist gets older, they have families. They get
They play
second
golf.
homes. They might play golf.
Right.
And it becomes harder to be all in.
Right. Well, so before at this, you give this talk.
Yeah.
And
I can give you the other ones real quick,
Okay.
just because you started that. Develop mentors, and I have some very specific ways to do that. I think people screw that up.
Talk about that.
Embrace okay.
What do people screw up?
They shoot too high. Like they go up to someone who's got no time and say, "Hey, will you be my mentor?"
Right.
So they shoot too high and they ask for this thing that seems gargantuan.
Yeah.
And it's just
reminded me of
there's a
something.
nuance.
Yeah.
There's a nuance to getting that right, and that ain't it.
Yeah, no, I had an undergraduate at Cal called me a few years ago and said we needed to write a book together.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I don't even know what to do with that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said, why do
It's ambitious.
Why do I need you? You know, yeah.
It's ambitious.
But yes, okay.
But I recommend two things. One, I recommend, and I borrowed this from Danny. When Danny set out to be a restaurateur, there were 10 people that he wrote down in a journal that were defining the new age of being in the restaurant business.
Right.
Wolfgang Puck and like people like that. And he kept like a fanboy journal on each one of them.
Right.
And I think that's a great idea. Like if you're going to go be a writer, you know, have a profile of Michael Lewis and Malcolm Gladwell and Krakauer and like study what makes them great. Like there's never been a better time in the history of the world to learn on your own time.
Right.
There's so much stuff out there.
Yeah.
Podcasts, interviews on YouTube, AI.
Yeah.
You know, you can just tell AI, hey, you be this person for a while. I'm going to ask you some questions.
So people shoot too high.
Yeah.
Anything else they do that they should?
No, but I love this exercise of having this group of people that you study, like
Yes.
as a fan person, because
Yep.
I think you learn a lot through that. And if you ever meet them one day, you now are in a much better way to have a nuanced conversation because you know so much about them. And then the other thing, don't aim so high. Like grab someone 2 rungs on the ladder above you who's never been asked to be a mentor before, because they'll be flattered that you ask. And
You
then
actually
you start
ask that question? I think
No,
I'd be
you
very
never ask that
uncomfortable
question.
asking-
No, you go up to them with
Like,
a very specific question about that relates to something they're really good at, and you start a relationship. That's all in there.
Right. I know. So, all right. You want to go through
Sure. So my favorite principle in the book is embrace your peers.
Right.
And I don't think enough people do this. And I don't know that any books really ever talked about doing it, but I've come across a number of people now that early in their journey, let's say all on rung 1 of the ladder, find a group of like-minded people that are heading in the same general direction and become friends. And start a WhatsApp group, whatever, but share ideas, share networks, share experiences, share your down days. They can be an incredible support.
Collaborate instead of compete.
Yes. And I think we learned to compete from zero-sum games, finite games, and most industries outside of downhill skiing, there's lots of winners.
Right.
And so you don't need to be as sharp-elbowed.
Right.
And people that have done this, I find, are more successful, more fulfilled. Their network builds faster. I just think it's a really cool thing to like go build and on your career path.
Can you think of an example of someone sharing something with you in your career where you kind of went, I can't believe they're doing that for me?
You know what that makes me think of? In the Bobby Knight chapter, his coach gets some data from another coach, and then later they end up playing that team, and Bobby Knight's team wins, and Bobby reflects on whether that was a good idea for that coach to have given him that.
the set tools to be
and then Bobby Knight went on to let all these coaches leave. He clearly didn't feel that like a play was proprietary or anything like that.
Right.
And so I thought it was cool that when the first time he saw that, he stopped and paused and says, "Was that a mistake?" And then he got over it and said, "No, that's just part of how this works."
People sense when you're operating in a zero-sum spirit.
No doubt.
And they respond. They should respond badly to it.
You should kick them out of your peer group if you feel that.
Yeah.
And those people are out there.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Well, Wall Street's full of them.
Yes. But you can find people that don't.
That don't.
Yeah. One of my lifelong friends, Mike Mobison, I met when I was a sell-side analyst.
He's great.
And we've shared books for the past 30 years.
Yeah. But it's so I'm going to stop you as you're going through this because I wanted to talk about this. You give this talk.
Yeah.
It goes on for. I thought it was a commencement speech. No. But it's an hour and 10 minutes or something. That's the longest.
Yeah.
Longer than the Trump State of the Union. But it's and you think that's it. You were given a talk to give a talk. You weren't given a talk because you were trying to advertise.
No.
Your desire to write a book.
That was it.
But the response to the talk.
Well, they posted it on YouTube.
And what happens?
I started to hear from people who, and since the book's come out, I've heard from even more people that had seen the talk, watched it with their children. I've met people whose careers are completely different now from seeing the
because
YouTube.
of it.
Yeah. I met this guy, he's great. He's a high school teacher, loves football, and he saw that speech and said, "Man, I wish I could just do football all day long." And it took about 5 years, but he launched a website where he categorizes offensive football plays, and then he created a software app, and now he's got like 700,000 followers, and he's quoted by NFL commentators.
Who is he?
Dan Casey is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
But anyway, it's fun. That's pretty fun when you hear that kind of stuff.
Well, you're giving people permission
Yes.
to take the thing that they're interested
Uncle Richard.
Yeah, that. You're
Yeah.
doing that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
but you're doing it from the perch of an extremely successful venture capitalist.
Yeah.
So that they think, well, if he thinks it's okay,
I don't know if that carries the weight or not. I'd
think-
like to think the
of course
stories
it carries
do.
some weight.
Yeah.
Of course it carries some weight.
And then the other
Has
thing.
anybody come back to you and said, you screwed up my life?
No, I haven't heard
I followed my passion, and my life's ruined.
I haven't heard it, but you know what's interesting about bringing that up? Daniel Pink wrote this book, The Power of Regrets, and he highlights in that book that people are really forgiving to themselves for regrets of action.
Yep.
And the thing that causes them immense anxiety is all the way up to the end of their life is
What they didn't do.
What they didn't do,
Yep.
regrets of inaction. So even if that did not work for these people, I don't know that they dwell on it all that much because of that element, you know.
Did you find the characters in your story so this is something I have done since I don't know why, it's morbid, since I was a kid. But I would think, like, when I'm about to die, is what do I want to have done in this situation?
Yes.
It's one of the ways I make decisions. Like, when I look back on this, am I going to, and it always pushes me in the direction of more risk taking.
I don't know if you know this, but Bezos has something he calls the regret minimization framework, which he admits is nerdy. But when he was deciding whether to start Amazon or not, David Shaw was trying. He worked at D.E. Shaw. Right. David Shaw was trying to get him to not go, and he came up with this idea, which is
he was going to argue his way out of his job.
No. He said, "What would my 80-year-old self advise me in this situation?" It's almost identical to what you just said. And I think it correlates with my. Or do you want to be doing this 30 years from now?
Yes, I think that's right.
And we have a saying in the book, life is a use it or lose it proposition. And when you're young, it feels like life is eternity. But when you're 40, it doesn't feel that way anymore.
And it flips on a dime.
Yeah, and if you can get in touch with that sooner, maybe you're willing to take more risk.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so...
the other thing had happened, James Clear found the video somehow, some way, and posted and started talking about it.
Oh, so that's why.
And not just James, but the team, David Sinra, who does the Founders Podcast, started mentioning it in a lot of his biography talks. He started going, oh, yeah, it's like the Gurley talk, like over and over. So it got out there amongst people, and then some people started poking me.
Right. And you when you decided to do it as a book, you didn't do it alone. You have a co-author.
I did get a co-author.
Why?
So part of this is when as you know, I became a voracious reader, and I started to really appreciate long-form nonfiction.
Yep.
And your stuff, Gladwell's stuff. There's a book I don't even know if you know about called The New Journalism.
I'm in it.
Yeah, you're in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That didn't mean you knew about it.
They interviewed me. He interviewed me at great length.
And before that one was The New Journalism.
Tom Wolfe's.
Tom Wolfe's book that was put together. And these techniques, I had read those books for fun.
Right.
And so when I decided I wanted to do this thing, I had this ambition to do it really well. And I came up with this idea that we could alternate and interleave stories or profiles with principles, which Michael Dell's book had 2 threads, interleaved, alternating chapter, which part of made me think about that.
Yep.
But I wanted the stories to read like exceptional nonfiction writing, like the narrative stuff that you guys do. And I'd read this article called "The Greatest Bowling Story Ever." I may have sent it to you once. That was in D magazine, and it was written by this guy Michael Mooney. And I read it in like a long time ago, but I met him one day. And I said, "You wrote that bowling story." And he said, "You wrote that speech at the University of Texas." That was his direct comeback. Yes, exactly.
Peanut butter and my chocolate.
And he does a lot of writing for The Atlantic. And it was, in my mind, the perfect person to hone the profile stories and make them come alive.
Right.
And I also was still practicing venture and didn't, in my mind, have the time to go do all of that myself. But he ended up becoming a co-researcher. We spent 5 or 6 years, and we read probably 100 biographies together. We talked to Adam Grant and Angela Duckworth and Daniel Pink. We got in front of all these people, and we went through all the academic literature on career satisfaction, and like we had a ball.
Yeah.
And the scope went like this.
And did you find a lot of the characters in the book are characters you talked about on stage? So you had
some of them are, but we added to it.
You added a couple.
We added a lot, and one of the things, I got to talk to Malcolm too. I mean, I had
Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah, I had an unfair advantage in putting this together, but Malcolm's big push was for the rest of the profiles, use people don't know.
Yeah.
Versus Bobby Knights
or Bob Dylan.
Yes. And so the rest of them that we added are more obscure stories, but wonderful. Like the Jen Atkins story, I just think is so wonderful.
It's a greater literary challenge, but you have the benefit of being able to invent them for the reader.
Yes.
The reader doesn't have the picture in their head.
Yes. And like in the Lori Bartlett chapter, who's a Hollywood agent, during the interview process, Michael's pushing her like, "Okay, so you love movies growing up. Where did you watch them?" And she told him about this old theater in her hometown. And Michael went and found pictures of it. And like you've seen the writing in the chapter, right? Like it starts with her going to this theater, and he paints the whole thing. And that's what I wanted. But I'm borrowing from the stuff you guys do, like and learning.
I'm curious. Michael was doing some of that work, but I'm curious. Did you notice another pattern? It's a pattern I notice all the time writing about people. They don't see their own story. That you can help them figure out what their story is. They're not moving through life as narrative nonfiction writers.
Yeah.
They're not actually cobbling together narrative at all.
Yeah.
And that sometimes there's a wonderful narrative to create from what's happened in their lives.
And we did some other fun things, like we usually made it just first name at the beginning, and just kind of reveal.
You don't know who it is.
And then
we've blown that already.
And then in almost all of them, the peak is their first success, and then we just have like a paragraph or two about all this other stuff that happened. But we try and land the plane, the pinnacle at that first big success.
But did you?
But these are all writing techniques.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
You go out in the marketplace with it.
Yeah.
And the publishers don't really want you to do this.
No.
Why do you think that is? This is going to sell way better than any memoir about you.
Yes.
I'm surprised.
Or How to Be a Great VC. How many people were going to buy that?
I don't know. But yeah.
And what impact would it have on the world?
Well, that's the other point, right? I mean, what you're trying to do here is make the world better.
Yes.
You're trying to make sure people don't take this wrong step in the.
Yeah. There's a piece that we didn't hit on, which is I was at this odd conference that a friend of mine had put together where he tried to intentionally match people that wouldn't know each other. And Brian Koppelman was there. The
Billions guy.
The Billions guy.
He gave me a role.
Rounders. And he has this thing he does where he tries to push people to do a creative act. Like he just said, "Hey, have you done anything creative? Go do something creative." And he starts poking me with this one night. And I said, "Well, I've got this speech I gave at the University of Texas." And he went and watched it. And the next day, he's like, "You have to write a book. You have to write a book." And then the other thing that happened, Tony Fadell, who's a good friend of mine,
who's he?
Tony Fadell was the inventor of the iPod and ran engineering for the iPhone, and then was the founder of Nest.
Okay.
Very successful. And he wrote a book called Build about building great products. Mm-hmm. And he said it was the best thing he'd ever done. Mm-hmm. And listen to what I just told you, what he accomplished. And I was trying to, and Danny had told me the same thing. Like he's more proud of the book setting the table than all the other stuff that he had done.
But it's almost as if when you go out in the publishing world is trying to do to you what the world does to young people. They try to get you to do the thing that doesn't mean anything to you.
But it's easy.
but it's easy. But they think they can. It seems like that it's a safe road.
It was a safer road. They wanted a safer road.
Right.
The meeting with agents was the same thing, and only one agent was willing to listen to this as a real idea. The editor that we ended up closing the deal with loved the idea from the beginning. The one editor.
Right.
And he wrote me a letter that makes me cry if I read it again, explaining how much he understood what I wanted to accomplish.
Right.
Like really, like it was as good a pitch as I've ever given to a founder as to why they should take our money. Like I was just like, oh, I'm done. I was like, I'm done. Like, this is just that good.
Is one of the things that's motivating you, you said, you saw these patterns in people you admired and that led you to give that talk. But how much did you see in your work life of people doing things that they weren't interested in because they thought they were supposed to do it?
I don't think. I'll tell you that the thing I think that really fascinates me is the notion of unlocking human potential and someone going and accomplishing something that they wouldn't have otherwise.
Right.
I have this closet secret. I've been watching American Idol since season 1, and I just love this notion that this person can get discovered and then reach.
Yeah.
It's like my version of the Hallmark Channel or something.
Right.
Like
Who's your favorite discovery on American Idol?
It's probably Kelly. Like it's the original. Like just and maybe I was younger and more impressionable. I don't know. It's been 20-something years.
But the idea that people have things in them that are not being
that aren't being found and recognized and are possible.
And if you think about
and when I hear these stories, that have been inspired, or even when I read the ones that we wrote in there, when I read the audiobook, a couple times I'd like choked up. It was kind of a weird thing.
Crying
to say.
at your own words.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like laughing at your own.
But there's something about it I love. Like the rags to riches, like breakthrough. I love it. You know?
Well, if you think about the American Idol situation, it tells you something about life in general, right? Because if that obvious a talent can have gone neglected, what else can't go neglected? Like, there are a lot more subtle talents that, like the ability to run a restaurant.
Yes.
The only way it's going to surface is if you insist on surfacing it.
Yeah.
And the world's not going to come find it.
And they might be stuck because they don't feel like they have permission. Or they don't believe that they might be successful.
Right.
And that's the goal, is to see if we can help them get to that place.
Right. That's kind of what in your business life, you're doing that a bit with entrepreneurs,
a bit,
right?
Yeah, a bit.
That's going on.
Yeah, it's the same. I think there's a similarity between that and Idol, where, you meet a founder and there's 2 people in a PowerPoint, and then, 10 years later, there's 3,000 or 4,000 employees in an IPO, and it's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah.
We backed Open Table when they had 3 restaurants, and I remember with my wife being in Bali and walking into a restaurant and seeing that device, and I'm like, there's 20,000 restaurants on the thing, and I'm like, wow, we really did it.
Yeah.
This is before Uber, obviously, and then just, look at that.
Yeah.
So there's this fun thing of being able to see something early and see it thrive. That I get emotional.
Well, when you've seen it over and over, it can happen.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It becomes real in your mind because you've seen it before. We've already cut
overtime.
We're already overtime on us. So this hasn't been sorted in any way for me, but this is great. You've talked about finding a mentor. As a mentor, how do you ensure the greatest success for your mentees? And can you tell us your favorite personal mentor-mentee story?
I think the thing that this won't sound that remarkable, but the more you can teach someone to learn themselves and teach them, like helping them with one problem or one connection's not going to be everlasting. If you can teach them to learn and teach them patterns on how to connect and get successful and really understand what they're working on, or encouraging them. I might just hand them the book in the future. That could save a lot of time. I got so lucky. I got lucky in numerous ways. But when I got to Wall Street, there was this gentleman. I doubt you ever met him, but his name was Charlie Wolf, and he was an analyst at CSFB, and he was a Columbia professor. And he loved stocks, almost Jim Cramer level of enthusiasm about stocks.
Yeah.
And he was my mentor he was a mentor for the whole analyst group there, but he knew my companies really well.
Yep.
And he had this grovelly old voice, and he just loved to talk about stocks. And he'd say, "Come on, kid, build a model, build a model. Don't have to build a model." And it just made it so much fun. Like, he had so much enthusiasm for it. Like, just showing up and like it made going to work like super exciting.
He was important to you.
Yeah. Mobison too. Like, he impacted a lot of us in that circle.
Here's what I want. This is floating in the back of everyone's minds. All for following interests and curiosities. But how do you deal with the realities of needing income? Any suggestion? What's the line of how much there is? What's the line of how much? I can't read the rest.
That's okay.
Yeah, we know,
I get this question some. So I started getting the question early, even after the video, and several of the stories in the book, people really do start at ground zero. So Jen moved to LA with $200 in her pocket. Now,
Bob Dylan.
I guess you could be, Bob Dylan hitchhiked to New York with $10. So you could be in debt. So I guess you could be worse off than they are.
Right.
And more inflexible.
Right.
And look, there's some level of the world's problems that this book's not going to be a solve for. Like, that's not the whole purpose of the book.
Right.
I was inspired by getting this question a lot, and if you look on the last page in the book, I'm going to launch a foundation called the Runnin Down a Dream Foundation. We'll see how it goes, but we're going to offer $105,000 grants to people who need a little boost to get headed in this direction. We're going to do applications.
That's very cool.
And so we'll see what happens.
Yes.
And then
are you going to vet these applications?
Yeah, and Michael Mooney, the co-writer, wants to be on. We're going to have a little board that goes through them. And we have to build the application. Right now, the website has an email form that says, "Let us know when the application opens."
Has anything? So nothing.
Yeah, people have submitted emails.
Right.
And then we're going to go build the application.
Can I come write about it?
Yes. I'd
love to come write about it. That would be, or a podcast about it. That would be a really interesting little exercise.
Yeah.
See what comes in the door and what you think of them.
Yes, and then one thing we're going to do is, if you show meaningful progress, which we will define over time.
So you
get another grant.
You just modeled what you said. You have opened up your literary material to me. Without asking for anything. It's like, because you could do another book out of that.
Well, I'll tell it just for this audience, although I think they're posting this on YouTube. My ultimate dream version of the foundation is enough people are successful that read the book that they contribute to it, and it has an evergreen life to it. I'm not starting it that way. I'm just starting it with my money and money from the book.
Right.
But hope that's like my dream version of it, that it would become this self-reinforcing thing. We'll go see. 2 years from now, I might say it didn't work for all these reasons. I don't know.
Right. All right. Unemployment is 4%, but for 20-somethings, it's 12%.
Yeah.
What advice do you give to young graduates who are experiencing anxiety that AI is taking away entry-level jobs?
Yeah. So this is the most popular question of all these days.
Yes.
There's a reality that first of all, I love Covey's principle, understand your circle of influence, what's inside of it and what's outside of it. And AI is outside of your circle of influence. You're not going to stop it. It's not going away. Yeah. You're not going to lobby the government to put it in a box. Yeah. I mean, try, but it'd be a weird way of optimizing your situation.
Right.
And so... And so think about that. If you think about that pragmatically, it takes away, like, what is the real value of sitting around being
worrying about it? Yes.
There's no proactive movement in that whatsoever. And in fact, it's probably negative for what you're going to go do.
Right.
And so that said, I'd have a couple of pieces of advice. One, in any role in any field, be the most AI-enabled version of yourself you can possibly be. There's tons of anthropologists that have written about how we evolve with our tools, and you can just imagine a farming competition between a guy with a tractor and some drones and the other guy's got a plow and a donkey. Who's going to win?
Right.
And you need to think about it that way. And if there are 40 people in your org all doing the same thing and you understand how AI affects that role more than the rest of them, you're not getting laid off.
Right.
Like, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
And you'll also start to understand what parts of your job are a threat or not. And maybe you can elevate yourself to where you're a designer and not the worker bee, because you now have this power.
Right.
I would also say that if you really treat your job with high agency and you kind of have this custom career path that you've mapped out using the principles of this book, AI is like a superpower. Like, you can learn faster than you could have ever learned before. Yep. You can get more things done,
yep.
like with fewer people.
Yep.
It's you can really accelerate yourself. And I've met all kinds of people that view it that way. But if you're in a job you don't love and you don't really consider yourself an artisan and you're not pushing the forefront, you're more likely to get run over by this. One thing that's interesting, if you think about your job as an artisan, you're painting what hasn't been discovered yet.
That's right.
And all the stuff that's in the LLM is all the best practice that's already been written down.
Right.
So if you've somehow put yourself on the edge of the industry and are thinking about what's coming in the future, you're more future-proof from this. But you're only going to do that if you're super fascinated by the subject matter.
Right.
Yeah. The nuance, artisans really get into nuance, and the nuance isn't in the models.
You know, there's another version of this. The version of my career is that when well before AI, when I felt like a subject had been dealt with, basically done, I completely lost interest in it. That the interest was what had not been done, or what people weren't paying attention to. And so it doesn't, maybe one day it will be a threat, but it doesn't feel like a threat.
And I don't think it does to anybody who has that mentality about what they do. Yeah. I've met some local entrepreneurs that run laundromats or stuff, and they're like, do you know what this stuff can do? Like, I was thinking about launching a 4th location, and I didn't know where to put it in the city, and I told it about these, and it spit out the next 3 spots and started looking up things that were available. And they're like giddy, like, oh my God, does anyone know about this? It's so awesome. Yeah. It's an interesting contrast from those people to, and Mark Cuban the other day tweeted, he said there's 2 types of people, the people that use LLMs to learn faster and the people that use LLMs to not learn at all. And I thought that was profound.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's right.
A good separator.
Yeah. All right, here we go. You talked about the importance of finding peers. What do you think gets in the way of people finding their tribes? What was most helpful to you?
The number one thing we already talked about is this sharp elbow thing. And if you've been trained as a highly competitive athlete or at a super competitive high school, you might have these zero-sum notions in your own brain that you got to learn to get over and get around and put away. I would say put away. Put them away.
Right.
If you co-evolve with a group of people and you all succeed, it makes the journey so much more fun. So much more fun.
You get this from athletics.
Perhaps.
Right? Yeah. Maybe not necessarily, but you can.
Yes.
You get that feeling.
Yes.
What's the career risk you almost didn't take, and what pushed you over the edge to take it?
Almost didn't. I took most of them. You know, one of the things that made me think of this thing. I got invited to hang out with Rick Rubin at Shangri-La, his
He's
studio, for 3.5 hours, and man, that was cool.
Yeah,
that was cool. But in his book, he says, every single career move I made, all my friends advised me against, and they were all the exact right decision.
He said that.
Yeah, he said that in his book. Just trust your gut.
I have a hard time imagining Rick Rubin asking his friends for their advice.
Well, maybe he told him, "I'm going to go do this," and they say, "You're stupid." He walked away from the Beastie Boys after the first album, as an example. But then he produced LL Cool J, and then all this other stuff started.
No, he does. He is a really good example of you never know where he's going to go next.
Yeah.
Because he's following his own.
There's
some sound in his head.
I don't mean to be to not answer the question, but I go back to that thing my father did of going to do NASA. I never felt like risk averse in making my career decisions. I never had that in my brain.
All right, so there's a related one, but maybe the answer is nothing. What would you do differently if you were to start your career all over again?
I don't think I would do anything different. The two places I ended up, leaving were great stepping stones for where I ended up. Like they added to it all added up.
Right.
Like they weren't bad places to have gone.
But there are the two moments in your career that are really, really important. And the moments you leave Compaq and the moments you leave Wall Street, and it's both for the same reason.
Yeah.
It's both you're not learning anymore. You sense this kind of, and you weren't afraid to go try something.
Right.
Why didn't you have that fear? Where do you think the absence? Fear is a great motivator in people's lives, and it takes them in all kinds of sad directions. Why did you?
The only thing I can attribute to is that father story. I don't know. Maybe reading about people, jumping and moving and trying new things. You reading your book, I didn't have the fear. I mean, sometimes when you land in a new place, actually, when I landed in a new place, I was excited. When I first got to New York, man, that was cool.
Yeah.
And when I got to the Bay Area, man, that was cool. Like being here,
you found a resting place for a long time.
Yeah.
You didn't get agitated with it.
No, I loved the job. I really, really adored it.
We're going to do one VC story.
Okay.
All right, because we got 1 minute left, and I don't have any idea what this is, but apparently you have a story about how you and Barry Bonds secured an Uber deal.
There's some mixed messages in there.
All right.
And I don't know
pick the best one?
No. Well, it wasn't Uber. It was a company called Jamdat. We were competing with Sequoia for a deal, and we became aware that that we were in a competitive situation, and this was at the time where Barry Bonds was crushing it.
Right.
And when they were in the meeting deciding what to do, and that timing was somewhat lucky, we delivered a signature bat from Barry with a note that said, "Let's go hit a home run together." And it showed up as they were making the decision.
How'd you get the bat?
I don't remember. My assistant Amy, who's in the room, probably knows the answer to that, and she probably did it. So,
ladies and gentlemen, Bill Gurley.
Thank you all.
All right, we got to do something formally.
Okay.
Just in case.
Me too, or just
no?
you?
You can. I think you got to sit here anyway.
Okay.
You shouldn't leave. Our thanks to Bill Gurley, author of Running Down a Dream: How to Thrive in a Career You Actually Love. We encourage you to pick up a copy of Bill's book here or at your local bookstore. And for information about the Commonwealth Club World Affairs membership and upcoming programs, please visit www.commonwealthclub.org. I'm Michael Lewis, and have a good night.
Thank you. And I'm going to be in the back signing the book.